CEO Live Talks.
I am Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change, and these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swannie Jett. Welcome to episode 2 with Dr. Raymond Burse. Well, you know, the issue that I have, and it's not just with House Bill 4, but it's with the politics of the country and the executive orders and things they're trying to do. They're trying to root out anything that have to do with African American and why African Americans have been behind. Mm-hmm. They're trying to eliminate the issues with redlining, the wealth disparities that have occurred, the health disparities that occur, all have stimulated from slavery. Right. So if everybody that did have land at that time, the land was taken, right? Yeah. Got poor education, there's no reparations, right? So we still haven't even broached the subject of reparations. Mm-hmm. That would make me whole, and then you could say that all the wrongs have been righted. Yeah. Right? But that ain't the case.
No, it's not. Not even close.
Not even close.
The word reparations, sends tremors through certain communities in terms of where it is.
Right.
When you talk about sort of the history and in terms of rewriting, taking out of our history real events that occurred in terms of things, and trying to say that they didn't happen. Mm-hmm. What you're doing is you're handicapping people for life because you're not letting them have the full knowledge of the experiences that have shaped this country, shaped them in terms of where they're going. I worry about a whitewashed history of this country because as much as you want to try to escape from it, you can't escape from it. In Tulsa, Black Wall Street existed. It was burned down, and there have been incidents that have occurred across this country in terms of what has happened. Mm-hmm. And no matter how hard you try, you may succeed momentarily to get it out of the books, but that history is there. And as we were talking about earlier, it's incumbent on us to make certain that our kids, our posterity, understand that history and be able to carry it on.
Well, the funny thing is there was 600 such massacres that occurred across the U.S. Mm-hmm. And you can whitewash history, right? Yeah. There's still Google. Yeah. There's still internet. Mm-hmm. So you can't wash it, but it ain't even, you can wash our history all the way. Mm-hmm. There are still people in the society that is going to still act to us as if it happened. Right. So it don't change the minds of other white people that's out there. Yeah. They still calling people the N-word and doing racially bad things to them. Right. So maybe we need to whitewash white history. Right. Maybe we need to do it in reverse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that the hatred and the bigotry could disappear. Yeah. Right, because that's what it really stems from.
Would be nice if we could do that.
It would be nice.
Really, really nice. You get to that sort of ideal country that King talked about.
Right. So. Then you would truly be unified because last time I checked, when I leave the United States and I go anywhere in the world, they say I'm an American. They don't say I'm a Black American. No, They don't say I'm a white American. Right. They say I'm an American. Right.
Yes.
But in this country, we're the only ones to really look the difference between races.
Yeah.
Which is astonishing. Now, there might be some other countries out there, but I don't know.
If other countries that have done that, not only don't know, I haven't heard about them yet.
Right. So we have a very divided history, which is why we're leaving ourselves open.
Yeah, we are.
So you become president of K-State for 9 years. Tell me some of your success stories.
Well, so one, I started out with, I guess 9 months before I got ready to go to Kentucky State, in a education committee in Frankfort, they were debating closing Kentucky State. A motion was put on the floor Motion didn't pass, but because of a tie vote.
Wow.
So the fact that Kentucky State is still there today and was there, I consider that a major accomplishment
That's a
because
major accomplishment.
we overcame that. I was there in the 1980s for the first time in the 1980s. So our graduation rate jumped to almost 60%. It was down pretty low. We did almost every building on that campus. When I got there, probably half the buildings on the campus roofs were leaking. We weren't even using the top floors of most of the buildings.
Wow.
And so through efforts of the governor and others, we actually renovated every building on that campus and got that done. They had not gotten a financial audit, clean opinion on a financial audit in years.
Wow.
So we ended up with clean audits every year that I was there in terms of that. We started some new programs. We started a College of Leadership Studies and named it after Whitney Young, who is a KSU graduate.
Okay.
It was things like that. We earned the respect of members of the Kentucky legislature, and particularly those who talked about closing Kentucky State, because they saw what could be done, what could be achieved when you really went to work and did something. So, our standing in the state, standing in the academic community, rose in terms of that. But I guess when I look back on it more than anything, yeah, and I would say my greatest achievement, and even the day when I walked on the streets of Louisville to see KSU graduates, and who walk up and say, thank you for the work that you did because it made a difference in terms of my education. That alone is all I need for the hard work, the long hours and things that was done. But the fact that the institution is still standing, still strong, I consider a major achievement.
So, for some aspiring people out there that might want to be president, right? What's the everyday rigor?
Well, you don't sleep often. In that role, you're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Okay.
It kind of, so what you try to do and this is with any organization, is to have a staff of people with expertise and knowledge in the spaces that you don't have.
Okay.
So you got a good team of people who know the academic enterprise,
Right.
know how it operates, know what levers to pull, how to in fact do things to keep things running,
Okay.
so as to allow the college president to be presidential,
Okay.
to be the public face that needs to be that, so that he or she doesn't have to get into the
weeds.
nitty gritty of the operation every day.
Right.
But the reality of it is you're going to get pulled into
Right.
that, and you have to be prepared to be able to understand it. But you got to have a good group of people around you
Yeah.
who can execute and do what needs to get done to make certain things happen. So, when I was in Kentucky State, and these teams said, we leave the campus at 6 or 7 in the evening and you're in the office and we think we're going to beat you. We come in at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning and you're in the office. When did you leave? When did you go home? And I did. I went home but your days 12, 14, 16 hours a day, sometimes more than that, just depending on where the issues were. And when you're a college president, you're in demand. People want to see you out in the public. They want you to come to be banquet speakers, to do all of that. And they won't accept a substitute. They want to see the person in
I
charge.
know about that one.
They want to see that. I was usually in the office probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, really working whatever phone messages I had, whatever mail had come in, things that I needed to do and sign off on. And once a week we had cabinet meetings, and it was all of the senior staff to talk about what are the issues on campus, what do we need to deal with, what do we need to manage, what do we need to change. Doing long-range planning. What are we going to do for the next week, the next month, the next year? Lay it out in terms of where we are. So you work those things, and as I say, the biggest headache on campus, and people are going to forgive me for this, and that is the faculty. And they're that way because of their training. So with people who get terminal degrees, are in fact encouraged to do novel research, come up with novel theories, and write really breaking saying. Then you take them out of that setting where they're individuals in terms of, and put them in a group environment and say you all got to work together. It doesn't always work
It doesn't work that way.
the way that you want to.
Yeah.
So you got to deal with that. I said, if you only had to work with students, you could be president of institutions forever.
Right.
Because it's a great job.
Right.
It's all of the adult problems that you have to deal with on
Well,
campus.
I laugh all the time because the same issues I have to deal with my kids, I have to deal with adults, so it don't change. They just got older. They carry the same issues with them.
Yeah. So you have to do that. So you deal with faculty, and then it's just being visible in the community, on the campus, around. So you may have a luncheon speaker for one of the civic clubs. That evening you may have a banquet that wants to, or because you're president of an HBCU, almost every chapter of the NAACP in the state wanted you to come be their freedom
Right.
fund speaker,
Right.
and their engagement in terms of that. It's just a bunch of demands. And then at the end of the day, so when the people have left, it's 4:35, they've gone home. The mail and the phone calls that came in during the day that you didn't get to,
You still gotta
you
do
worked
it.
those that evening.
And your email, unless you had your assistant do your email.
Yeah.
So, and your email. So I'm familiar with that because a lot of people don't understand. They say, we see you, working at the cigar bar at 11:30 at night. I'm like, yeah, I had meetings all day. So I had to catch up on this other stuff.
Right.
So I get it. So I'm looking at overall what you're talking about in terms of your leadership style. It seems more like you hire the right person to do the position and kind of like let them do their job.
Right. That's what you need to do, is to hire good people and empower them to do their job, and then hold them accountable for doing that job.
Right.
What you show up in is not what matters, it's how you show up.
Right.
So if you can articulate from your heart, they'll forget what you got on.
Because a lot of people want to Google
Yes.
medicine now,
Yes,
and it's very difficult.
it is. Would you Google if you had some sort of ailment that you were curious about?
I'm an epidemiologist by training,
Okay,
so
fair. So you know.
Folks, what are your credentials? And sometimes you have to pull them out and say, okay, here's this degree, here's that. You're like, oh, okay, maybe we should listen to you.
We're going to build a $40 million facility that allows parents to sleep better at night.
I was watching this thing on PTSD, and they were talking about people in war, and they were like, human beings are not wired to perennially be on alert, in a state of alert.
Right, that's your
And that's what happens
cortisone.
when you're at war.
Yeah, your cortisone level continues to go up, the adrenaline gland.
And that's what's happening to black people.
What was besides the faculty, first or second term, did you have any issues, people that pissed off at you? Or people that want to file a lawsuit against you? 'Cause there's always some of that.
Oh,
It's always some of that.
you're gonna get some of that. One of the things, I guess, when I was a president at Kentucky State the first time, Otis Singletary was president of the University of Kentucky, and Otis and I used to commiserate with all. And he said, Raymond, what happens is, over the course of your tenure, you make decisions, and every decision offends this group. And before you know it, over that period of time, you've offended them all. So just get prepared for it.
They all combine.
They all combined to do that. I made some tough calls when I was in Kentucky State, and I was a demanding president. That's because I wanted the best for the institution. And I used to tell the folks, the reason I'm doing this is when they come to try to close you the next time, they can't say your finances are not in shape.
Right.
They can't say your building is not in shape. They can't say your students are not learning, your faculty is not teaching. They're gonna have to tell you the real reason they're coming for the closure.
Right.
And that's what it was all about. And so, you work hard to make certain that people understood that and do whatever is necessary to do that. And in that process, you offend people. I demanded a lot. I'm a person. I wanted that campus. I hated a campus full of litter.
Oh yeah. Oh Lord.
I hated.
That sounds like me at Park Duval.
I hated going into a building that was not clean. I hated going into the dormitories, and my dormitories looked like a war zone.
Right.
Okay. And my thing was the people who are responsible for that. I'm telling you up front what I expect and what I want. You don't know when I'm going to walk through that building or when I'm going to be across that campus. But if you're responsible for it, and I find some things out of line, I'm going to hold you accountable for it. And it offended and made some people mad, and I had to terminate some folks.
Yeah.
But I did it because it was, in my opinion, in the best interest of the institution. So my choice was I could do what was in the best interest of the institution or do what made people love me.
You know, you touched on something, and you can relate to this. So, you know, I've been a health commissioner 3 times, and these organizations were majority white, except probably Seminole County probably was a mixture because I had a lot of African Americans that were shut out and were not given opportunity. And so I had opportunity to come to Park Duval. So I knew historically that I had heard, because I was at the health department at one point, that Park Duval wasn't ran as it should be. It wasn't a shining star no more in the community. So I took the job to raise the level of Park Duval. But also I wanted to clean up the place. I wanted to make sure the customer service was great. I wanted to make sure the floors were clean. I could walk at any moment and hold people accountable. But people didn't like that, so I became a mean man. Right.
Sound like we share something.
We share something in common. So now you at K-State, and you're trying to do the same thing and run it as an institution, regardless of HBCU or not. That's the standard.
You're right.
Was that your mindset going in?
Yeah, it was my mindset. It was. I wanted, you know, when I said I wanted things to run so well and be so that if they ever decide to try to close it, they had to tell you the real reason. It isn't because your facilities are not good. It isn't because your faculty is not good. It isn't because your students not graduating. You're not counting your money. You can know where every penny is. Those things. You know, I went in with that mindset that that's where I wanted to go. So that was the first time. When I went back the second time, I went back wanting to showcase what a HBCU could be as an institution. And you know, part of that showcase was we had a showcase. Well, I guess during February we did you know, outstanding African American. I brought in some heavy hitters because I wanted students to see what African Americans could do. And we brought in CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. We brought in deans and presidents of institutions for kids to see. But not only just for them to speak to them, but you know, we gave the room to that person and those students and let them interact without us, without any of our faculty or staff or me in the room.
Wow.
For them to really see. And so the process was to showcase that.
Right.
And I think the second time around, we did an even better job than we did the first time around.
Okay.
So.
Have you had some students that now have been very successful come back to you in a career and say thank you?
Oh yeah. It happens all the time. You know, when I left Kentucky State the first time, I came back to Louisville to the law firm that I was there, and I used to say, folks, you know, they asked me, you know, what did you miss about Kentucky State? I said, I don't miss anything, because at lunchtime, I could come out of that tower, go over to the Galleria to have lunch, and run into students from Kentucky State, and every one of them would say, you know, thank you, you did a great job, we grew or would tell me what they're doing. And you know, you get that little sense of pride. Maybe I had a small role to play in that individual's success in terms of where it is. So, but no, that you know, to me, that is the greatest reward for the hard work and being termed a mean something.
You know, I really don't care. As long as the operation is successful and it's a shining star of excellence in the community. That was my goal. So whenever I decide to go back to wherever I'm going, that's the lasting legacy. So I want to thank you for that. Yeah. My daughter graduated from K-State too, so probably about almost 5 or 6 years ago. So I've watched the campus change slowly. And, you know, I used to be great in football until Tennessee State beat y'all up too much. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's because you and John Merritt cheated all the time. That's where it was. But no, the levels changed in terms of there, and y'all brought in Gail Sayers, the coach, y'all be the athletic director, and did all that. Well, and Kentucky State wasn't ready for that at that point.
Yeah. So now you transition from K-State law practice to NAACP. So it's a lot going on.
Yes, there
So
is.
what is your hot topics right now?
So I guess the two hot topics for us right now, number one is the new superintendent for Jefferson County Public Schools. We're involved in giving our opinion as to who the new superintendent ought to be and what qualities they ought to be looking for. So we're working with that in terms of the board. In fact, they had a meeting the other night that we attended and gave some additional information to them about what we're looking for to see. So the superintendent. The second thing is the consent decree with the Department of Justice. You know, the city entered into a consent decree with DOJ. It's now before a judge who doesn't seem inclined to want to in an order to enforce it. And so given that may not happen, we're advocating to the mayor that we want a consent decree. If it has to be enforced, implemented locally, we wanted that to do so. And we want the community to be involved in what that is and how it is and what's enforced. So those are, to me, are the two major issues right now.
At Park Duval Community Health Centers, we believe healthcare is for everybody, everywhere. Our 7 locations across Kentucky provide affordable, high-quality care no matter your income. We are Park Duval.
I always say you got to hire the right people, and I know they go through emotional intelligence tests, screen, but you also have to foster the right culture, and then you have to proceed down the legality to remove the person if you don't. But I'd rather screen them and get rid of them up front.
Right.
Than
Or
let them
not
into
let them
operation.
in. Not let them in up front.
Not let them in up front.
Yeah. You know, part of it. Part of the problem is that a lot of what's in culture in police departments has grown and developed over years.
Right.
And it's ingrained. And so everybody who's inside of that culture were raised in an environment where this is okay and this is all right. And they're part of the blue line.
Right.
Is that you don't let anybody come over that blue line and you don't throw anybody out over the blue line, so you do protection, okay? And so until you have a person as a chief who wasn't raised in that culture, ingrained in that culture, survived in that culture, promoted in that culture, in there, you're going to have some of the same old problems.
Right.
You know, with our current chief, a fine young man. In fact, he told me he went to school with my oldest son, which I didn't know. But you know, his 21 years have all been in LMPD. So what he has learned is all of what LMPD.
Right.
And we need something different about that. And part of the consent decree is trying to get at changing that culture that's there. And putting some accountability into that culture.
And not only has he been in the system, he's been desensitized to a lot of things he's seen over time. And so I understand exactly what you're talking about because I became a health commissioner in Seminole County, Florida, which is Sanford, right after Trayvon Martin was killed. And my buddy became the police chief, Cecil Smith. But he came from Elgin, right, to Sanford, Florida. And changed the whole system, right? Sanford is operated different. But one of the things I noticed he instituted, he built the culture, right? He hired his people in. There was some people left over. But also he had staff he could trust, and then he hired staff from the communities, right? Which were not afraid to walk and be in those communities. He had people from the community that could actually find the bad actors instead of just actors. Right. So I thought that was a big difference. So I watched it from him and Chief Chris Dressel, which was over Winter Springs, and now he's in Colorado. Same thing. It was all about the culture and what he brought in.
Right. Well, you know, Louisville had a police chief who was doing exactly that. I don't know where you were here when Robert White was police chief.
I was here.
Let me tell you something. the rank and file in the police department, they hated him.
Yeah.
Why? Because he had accountability,
Yeah.
and he demanded and did those things. And you know, I to this day, you know, Greg Fisher did a lot of things. When he came in, he should have kept Robert White.
Right.
If he kept Robert White, I think we have a totally different police department.
Yeah, I believe so. So what is the end goal? Because this fight dealing with the judge and the consent decree, what if it doesn't go right?
Well,
How else can we hold it?
what we have said to the NAACP and other organizations have said to the mayor is that we want the consent decree enforced locally. We want a mechanism set up with a monitor to monitor what is in that consent decree. And basically what we want you is for the city to enter into a contract with the community that encompasses the items that are in the consent decree, and that the community has there's a mechanism for enforcing those, because if we don't have a judge's order to enforce it, we got to have something to be able to do that, and with regular reports to the community in terms of what is taking place. And so we're still engaged in those discussions as I speak with the mayor in terms of doing that. And that's with the mayor. Now, you know that the Republican caucus in the Metro Council that still exists has filed with the courts a motion to intervene in that, because they don't think this consent decree ought to be enforced.
Right.
So we've got a battle with the mayor and with the Metro Council to, in fact, get a consent decree that's enacted in ordinance in this city that we can enforce.
And let me guess, why don't they think it needs to be enforced?
So, yeah, well,
I'm just curious.
that's a good question. They have never articulated a reason why they don't think it's being enforced, because they said they already made all of the improvements. But we haven't been able to find, document, or see all these improvements that they claim have been made.
You know, I have a saying. One, we need to reverse all the policies that created the racial divide that we see today, right? And two, for everybody that says something doesn't need to occur, I need something to occur to them. And maybe they would see for themselves, because you never believe it until you witness it yourself and you have to deal with it.
Right.
And so on that note, I'm going to conclude, and I want to bring you back to talk about the consent decree and then the new superintendent whenever the person is brought in.
Okay.
So I want to thank you for coming to the show today.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to CEO Live Talks. I hope to see you next week. Thank you.